April 30th, 1945. A gunshot shatters the stale bunker air, its echo swallowed by concrete walls. Hitler's valet freezes mid-step, his hand hovering over the doorknob as the scent of gunpowder seeps through the cracks. The moment stretches too long before he turns the handle. What follows is history's most infamous vanishing act. The hurried cremation in the bomb-cratered garden. The conflicting eyewitness accounts. The Soviets' suspiciously perfect timing. Each piece of the puzzle fuels questions that still burn decades later. How did truth become the war's final casualty? The answers lie buried beneath layers of propaganda and panic. The reason so many doubted Hitler's death stems from Soviet secrecy and deliberate misinformation. When Red Army troops reached the Führer bunker in May 1945, they found partially burned remains, but Soviet authorities withheld this evidence for months. Stalin actively fueled uncertainty. At the Potsdam Conference, he told U.S. officials Hitler might have escaped to Spain or Argentina. This planted seeds for enduring conspiracy theories, from U-boat escapes to Antarctic hideouts. The Soviet autopsy reports deepened confusion. Initial findings noted both cyanide traces and bullet damage, but officials gave conflicting accounts. Some emphasized poisoning, others a gunshot. These contradictions made it seem investigators themselves weren't certain. Cold War tensions worsened the opacity. The Soviets saw value in keeping the West guessing, while U.S. intelligence occasionally entertained wild claims, like a 1955 tip about Hitler living in Colombia. Without physical proof, myths thrived. Alleged sightings in South America circulated through the 1950s, and some insisted the Berlin remains belonged to a double. Even Lev Bezymensky's 1968 book, which claimed the skull fragment had a bullet hole, was later debunked. The truth only emerged from declassified archives. Stalin had credible evidence of Hitler's suicide by May 1945, including NKVD interrogations and forensic analysis, but chose uncertainty as a political tool. Final confirmation came in 2000, when Russian authorities allowed examination of Hitler's jawbone. Dental records matched Hugo Blaschke's descriptions, with cyanide staining and gunshot damage consistent with suicide. Yet conspiracy theories persist, often citing Russia's classified remnants or early report inconsistencies. The evidence, however, dental records, eyewitness accounts, and physical remains, all confirm Hitler died in the bunker. The enduring lesson isn't about his fate, but how political agendas can distort history for decades, much like modern misinformation campaigns that exploit gaps in official narratives. On April 30th, 1945, the Red Army was just blocks away from the Führer bunker. Artillery shells pounded the Reich Chancellery above, their explosions muffled but constant. Inside the underground shelter, Hitler spent his final hours caught between bursts of anger and moments of eerie calm. He refused all suggestions to leave Berlin, insisting he would die in the capital of his crumbling empire. That morning, he married Eva Braun in a brief ceremony lasting less than 10 minutes. The bunker reeked of sweat, gunpowder, and burning paper as staff incinerated documents in the garden, military records, personal letters, all fed to what one observer called a bonfire of vanity. Hitler held increasingly pointless military meetings, screaming at generals over phantom armies, while the walls shook from nearby explosions. Between these outbursts, he methodically prepared for death. He tested cyanide on his dog Blondie, then distributed poison capsules to staff. Some urged escape, but Hitler had decided he would shoot himself while Braun took cyanide, determined to avoid Mussolini's fate of public display. After a final meal around 1 p.m., the couple retreated to his study. At approximately 3:15 p.m., a single gunshot echoed through the bunker. When staff entered minutes later, the air carried two sharp smells: gunpowder and bitter almonds. Hitler slumped forward, blood dripping from his right temple, the Walther PPK at his feet. Braun lay beside him, face contorted from poison. Staff wrapped them in blankets and carried them to the garden. Gasoline flames licked at the remains, but Soviet shelling forced everyone inside before cremation completed. The charred corpses retained identifiable features. Hitler's jawbone, though fire damage, matched dental records. Bloodstains on the sofa aligned with witness accounts. Soviet troops found the remains days later but gave conflicting reports. Some mentioned only poison, others the gunshot. This inconsistency fueled conspiracy theories, though the evidence was clear. Hitler died by suicide on April 30th. The lingering mystery wasn't how, but why the Soviets obscured the truth for decades. Science eventually cut through decades of speculation about Hitler's death. In 1945, Soviet forensic teams secretly matched dental records to confirm the burned remains found in the Führer bunker were Hitler's. But publicly, Moscow claimed no definitive proof existed. This deliberate vagueness kept rumors alive for years, allowing conspiracy theories to flourish. The Soviets had the evidence but chose to distort it, creating confusion that lasted well into the Cold War. A major breakthrough came in 2000 when researchers re-examined Hitler's jawbone, stored in Russian archives. The forensic analysis matched it perfectly to dental records provided by Hitler's dentist, Hugo Blaschke. The bone also showed a clear bullet exit wound, consistent with eyewitness accounts of his suicide. This was the most conclusive proof yet that Hitler died in the bunker. But for over 5 decades, Soviet misinformation had muddied the waters. Early reports claimed Hitler died by cyanide alone, despite clear signs of a gunshot. These contradictions weren't accidental. They were part of a deliberate disinformation campaign. One of the most notorious examples of Soviet distortion was Lev Bezymensky's 1968 book, The Death of Adolf Hitler. Bezymensky, a Soviet journalist, published what he claimed was an official forensic report. It argued Hitler died only from cyanide poisoning, ignoring the bullet wound. Western historians quickly debunked it. A German pathologist called Bezymensky's account ridiculous, pointing out how it contradicted both physical evidence and witness testimony. Yet for years, the book fueled doubt, giving conspiracy theorists ammunition. Even today, fragments of Hitler's remains remain in Russian archives, untested. In 2009, U.S. researchers examined the famous skull fragment long believed to be Hitler's. They made a surprising discovery. The bone was unusually thin, more typical of a woman. This raised new questions about whether the Soviets misidentified some remains. DNA analysis could settle the debate, but Russian authorities have restricted access. The jawbone, however, remains the definitive piece of evidence. Its unique dental work leaves no doubt it belonged to Hitler. Multiple lines of evidence now confirm Hitler's death in the bunker. Bunker survivors like Otto Gunsch and Heinz Linge describe the suicide in detail. Bloodstains on the sofa where Hitler died matched witness accounts. Forensic analysis of the jawbone left no room for doubt. Even Soviet files declassified after the Cold War show Stalin knew the truth as early as May 1945. Yet he chose to spread uncertainty, telling Western allies Hitler might have escaped. This wasn't just about secrecy. It was a tactical move during rising Cold War tensions. So why do the legends persist? The answer lies in how effectively the Soviets manipulated information. By keeping evidence hidden and releasing contradictory reports, they created fertile ground for conspiracy theories. The lack of a publicly displayed body also fueled speculation. Even after forensic science provided answers, the myths adapted. Some now claimed the dental records were faked, or that the Soviets planted evidence. But the weight of proof, eyewitness testimony, dental matches, and ballistic analysis overwhelmingly supports the accepted version. Hitler died by his own hand on April 30th, 1945. Yet the mystery lingers not because of missing facts, but because of how easily truth can be obscured by politics. The story of Hitler's death isn't just about forensic science. It's a lesson in how power shapes history. Even with irrefutable evidence, myths endure when they serve a purpose. The real question isn't whether Hitler died in the bunker, but why so many still doubt what science has proven. That's where the true story lies, not in Hitler's fate, but in how we remember it. Hitler's death reveals how power distorts truth. Forensic proof, from his matched jawbone to eyewitness accounts, confirms his 1945 suicide in the bunker. Yet for decades, Soviet politics buried these facts, preferring confusion for their own gain. This journey from mystery to established fact shows history isn't just about events, but who controls the narrative. The past warns us, Political agendas can rewrite reality long after the evidence is clear. If you're fascinated by how truth gets hidden, smash that like button and explore our other World War II deep dives. History's secrets still hold urgent lessons for today.